A big thank you to everyone that has dialed in this afternoon, and you're very welcome for joining this IT at Cork webinar. It's a very, I think, timely and relevant webinar on being visible on online platforms such as LinkedIn. So a big thank you to Berkley Group for preparing this, in particular to Katie and Pat, who've put a lot of time and effort into their slides. So thanks again for your time, folks. By way of introduction, my name is Owen O'Mahony and I work as Cluster Manager with IT at Cork, and it's a pleasure for you to welcome you to this afternoon's webinar. You can find out a little bit more about IT at Cork on our website, itcork.ie, and you can follow us on our LinkedIn and social media and Twitter, just for relevant updates as well. Before we start, just some useful tips for you, the audience, to get the most out of the webinar. We are recording this session and we will make it available over the next week or so to our members and the general public. So again, just keep an eye on our website and LinkedIn and social media for updates on that. And as I said on the chat function there, you will have the opportunity to ask the panelists questions. So just use the Q&A tab at the bottom. And we will try to get to these questions towards the end. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over. I'm hoping that I'm just going to switch off my camera. I'm just going to try and get in touch with Owen to try and get his switched on. So Katie or Pat, if you want to take it from there.
Yeah.
Thanks, Owen.
Thanks very much, Owen, and welcome to Berkley Group's Helping Map Your Career, part 1 of Being Visible. Pat Munro is my name, senior recruiter and team lead in the business and technology team, and introducing my colleague Katie Sullivan, who is also a team lead in the same team. So Katie is first up with her presentation on creating an online presence, and mine will be on networking. So, but I would also like to welcome, most of all, our two panelists, Owen O'Sullivan. So Owen is former global director at Aspen Grove Solutions, and he's an innovative data professional and people manager with significant vendor management experience. He has a wealth of experience in data analytics, having worked in and with a variety of companies, from small, fast-moving, award-winning startups to blue-chip global corporations such as Oonua Noonan Core HR, Western Union, Wells Fargo, Starbucks, and KPMG. I'd also like to welcome Shawnee Dunn. Shawnee is a senior manager at PCH, is currently senior manager for data visualization at PCH International, and was previously senior data analytics platform manager with Johnson Controls International on their global transformation program. So with 16 years career in business intelligence, Shawnee encompasses a strong mix of leadership and hands-on technical capabilities. So welcome, gentlemen. Thank you very much. And hopefully we'll overcome these technical glitches and you'll be able to speak for yourselves in a second.
You're upset not seeing my video anyway.
Great face for radio, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah, so thanks, gents. And so how we'll kick it off is I'll hand it over to Katie, and Katie will do her piece, and then we'll throw it open to questions.
Perfect. Thanks a million, Pat, for that. There's just seems to be an issue with sharing the slides. I think, Shawnee, I think you've been made host by mistake. So if you could pass it over and make me host, just so I can share the slides for everyone to have a look at.
Yeah, sure thing. No problem.
Thank you. So I'll start off today. So thanks for that, Pat. I'm Katie Sullivan, and as Pat has outlined, I am the upcoming team lead on the contracts, business and technology desk here at Berkley. Perfect, so we can all see the slides. So today I'm going to talk through, I suppose, how to be more visible on LinkedIn and the importance of it. So just to give you a quick overview, according to a recent study, while I was doing a bit of research for this was with HubSpot, they recently issued an article that outlines that there's 700 million active users on LinkedIn at the moment. So it has kind of moved away and it has expanded from networking for just professionals to one of the most popular social media platforms out there. Not just for the users' growth, I suppose, LinkedIn has continued to expand as well within the advertising opportunities that it provides. And as a result of this, it's now one of the second most popular business-to-business marketers out to market. LinkedIn as well is one that people use to cultivate both their personal branding experiences and businesses to build strategic relationships. So very different, I suppose, to the likes of your Instagrams and your Facebook. LinkedIn is completely orientated around being aimed at the business market and being a very professional platform. So a lot of questions that we get asked, especially as recruiters and I suppose on the contract desk, is what value does it have to us as individuals, as business owners, as employees and as employers? So I think most people are aware, especially on the contract desk. I think myself and my team here at Berkeley can admit that it is a very fast paced environment that we work in. So when we get a new job or role or requirement in from any of the clients that we work with, we want to get the ball rolling quite quickly. So from this, I'm going to talk through during the webinar how to get the best value and to stay active, the importance of staying active on it. So you as the contractors, people looking for permanent roles, how can you come up in your search on LinkedIn if the likes of me as a recruiter or employers are looking for people like you, and especially with contractors having a very niche skill set in some cases. So most of these will be aware and obvious to some people, but up on my screen here, I'm going to kind of talk through some of the do's and don'ts of your LinkedIn profile. So here we have two profiles. Just kept it pretty simple here just to make it kind of very comprehensive. But for me, if we just take a minute and stand back and have a look at the two profiles, for me, I think it's quite clear which one would kind of pop up and kind of stand out more, I suppose, as being the good profile and the one that's not so good. So for me, I see Jane Doe on the right here as being the best out of the two. She has a very professional profile picture. She has a clear headline. And most importantly, I can see that she's ticked the box that she's open to opportunities and exactly what type of opportunities she's open to. Just because this is a screenshot as well, if I click see all details down at the bottom, it's going to provide me with even more necessary information. So honestly, for me, if we look at Jane Doe on the left then as a comparison, her profile picture, she could be the perfect candidate for the role that I'm recruiting for, but I think her profile picture is kind of acting as a disguise. If I was sitting in an interview room waiting for Jane Doe to come in for an interview, I don't think I truly recognize her. Would you? That could be just me, but again, looking at Jane Doe on the left, it's a lot more comprehensive. I can see exactly what she's looking for. So I know that if I reach out to Jane Doe, that she's willing to talk, that she's willing to find out about new opportunities as well. Just to follow on from this, Berkeley have done a lot of work on looking at LinkedIn profile pictures, and recently they've created an infographic on the ultimate guide to LinkedIn profile pictures that is available exclusively for all attendees here today. They've also recently released on our Berkeley website some of the do's and don'ts for your LinkedIn profile. Again, some of them might be quite obvious, but there's something I think that everyone can kind of take away from it, and that can improve your profile coming up for the relevant people. So for me, I think for LinkedIn, it's important to have all your relevant information up there. It's a professional brochure for yourself, if you like. First impressions, especially in today's world, everything we're doing is online. Due to COVID, we can't have face-to-face meetups. So first impressions on social media are as important as face-to-face, real-life first impressions as well. So a lot of people ask, how can we be more active and build connections on LinkedIn? So when it comes to LinkedIn, and especially in today's world, it's important to stay active on it. Let people know that you're there. It's one thing having your profile up there, but stay active. And how can we do this? Like, comment, and share other users' posts. By doing this, you're popping up on your second, third connections who could potentially be future employees and future colleagues. Build connections. I have a time allocated in my calendar each evening before I finish up for the day to do a search on LinkedIn within the areas that I'm currently working in, and I make it my business to connect with at least 10 people on it a day, just to build up the network. Create and share updates regularly. It could be local news. Comment under people's pictures, your opinions on it. There's a lot of very useful groups on it and discussions as well. So especially, for example, within the QA automation side, there's very good discussions on that. That's the area that I've been working in. So get involved. You can get discussions. You can make good relationships, business relationships on it as well. A lot of people that I can see, and it's not been used as much, I suppose, as it should be, is endorsing skillsy or connections and asking for recommendations. Some people, I suppose, are a bit reluctant to ask for recommendations, but I think it's really important. Ask previous colleagues, ask previous contractors that you've worked with, just to give you a mention on a particular project that you've worked on. By doing all of this that we've listed here, you're more likely to pop up on people's news feeds. And then again, these could be potential clients, candidates, etc. So as most people would be aware, if you looked at anyone's LinkedIn page, it will max it, it will cap it saying you could have 100,000 connections, but it will only say that you have 500 plus. This is a really useful tool. The reason being that it's only suggesting and highlighting that you have 500 plus connections is because LinkedIn looks at it as being all about quality and not quantity. So a lot of people and studies have been released on when's the perfect time to reach out to the people that I'm trying to reach on LinkedIn. So I've listed a number of times here when we're pushing out kind of job ads and various contents that we want to get a traction on. So it's found that on Wednesdays in the morning is a good time. And throughout the week, we can see Wednesday and Thursdays, people at lunchtime would be kind of scrolling through their phone. And again, Friday morning, ready to finish up for the weekend, you're just having your morning coffee, having a look through your phone. These are when you're going to get the most clicks and the most attraction on them as well. So I get asked an awful lot on what do we look at on profiles, and what it is what to include in your profile, your CV, your cover letter. It differs for each person. There shouldn't be a standard CV or cover letter going around to the 5 or 6 jobs that you're applying for. So at the end of this slideshow, I've provided my contact details, my LinkedIn, my contact number and everything like that. So by all means, anyone here listening today, if they have any queries or questions around their LinkedIn about kind of updating their CV, by all means reach out. It's what I do day in, day out, so I'd be more than happy to help. Just to follow on from LinkedIn, recently, and I don't think it's been used enough out there, maybe it is Twitter. Twitter is becoming huge. It's again, along with LinkedIn, it's a very popular social media platform, and it's all about being active on it and be active on discussions, because it's been found that a lot of employers and clients out there are actually headhunting quite a large of contractors on LinkedIn. So you can be retweeting, you can be commenting, you can be involved in discussions, because a lot of employees, it won't say who viewed your profile like LinkedIn, but they are watching discussions out there, and there might be something that you might comment on with another user on Twitter that might prompt a potential company or employer to reach out to you on this. So companies are using Twitter for these reasons as well. Again, it's important to keep it professional, have a good bio. You are quite reserved in terms of how much content you can put out on it. So it's just making sure that you're being kind of very comprehensive and straight to the point with the number of characters that you're allowed to put out on any tweet. So just to follow on from this, I just think that it's important to stay active across social media platforms. They're the networking again of today. So I think the key points to take away from this is, in order to be seen, in order to get the best opportunities, is to stay active across social media platforms as well, and to keep pushing content out there. So I hope everyone has kind of taken maybe some key points. You might have learned one or two things from what I've discussed here today. So I'd like to welcome both of our guest speakers here, Owen and Shawnee, who Pat has kindly introduced at the start of the webinar, just to see what exactly ye thought, what are your thoughts around social media platforms when it comes to recruiting. So I suppose, Owen, over to you first from what I've kind of discussed. How do you use these kind of social media platforms, I suppose, for kind of recruiting any employees on both contract and perm? Would you have kind of any opinions or kind of key takeaways for our attendees here today?
Well, there's a couple of things regarding LinkedIn. What you mentioned is pretty good. Just have a good profile. It's kind of your starting point. It's your tip of your iceberg when you're coming to your actual CV. So it's kind of it opens the door. So somebody's going to come along. If you're, as you said, if your CV doesn't look good, or your LinkedIn profile doesn't look good, you won't get a second look. It's your door opener. Once that's fine, then it's moving on to your CV. As regards Twitter, it's very important, and this will go for all social media outlets. If you're using YouTube, or if you're open on TikTok or Snapchat or Instagram, is what people would look for is a kind of, they'd look for the negative actually first off. They'd look for something like, if you're trolling people, obviously, if your level of discussion is pretty negative, it might be somebody that you wouldn't to bring on board a team, or wouldn't work well with a team. You just want to, if you're going to be public facing, or any public facing social media outlets you use, you just need to make sure that if you're saying anything negative, and there's nothing wrong with that, that you back that up with logic. And that's what somebody's going to be looking for. They're trying to get an essence of the person. And again, look, what you want to do as well, and it's probably less the case with LinkedIn. LinkedIn is more of kind of a professional kind of side of it. You want to kind of leave your actual personality there as well, on LinkedIn and in Twitter. You don't want to put whatever's on LinkedIn, whatever's on Twitter, whatever blog or microblogging outlet you use. You want to make sure that that personality matches up with the personality that you meet when you do an interview as well.
Yeah, no, brilliant. And yeah, no, I completely agree with that. It's all about keeping them all in line, especially if you're active across a number of different social media platforms. And I suppose, kind of passing it to you, Shawnee, would that be the same for yourself as well? Kind of the same in terms of when you're looking for good profiles and good candidates across social media?
Yeah, for sure. Like when I would look at candidates or potential candidates on LinkedIn, you made a great point there just on the endorsements. You know, if I can see that they have, you know, a number of endorsements around like the relevant skills that we're looking for, that's always a good thing. Especially then if that's across maybe a number of industries, it gives me a good feel for the person. Equally, you know, everything you said there just around the professional looking, you know, profile, even if it is just, you know, a series of bullet points just to give me a sense of the person professionally. Then it's good to see, you know, their interactions with other people's posts. You know, as Owen said, if you're not seeing any negativity, or if it's generally kind of a helpful persona, that's always a good thing. And especially then on Twitter, one thing that I'd look for on Twitter would be maybe interactions with like, you know, just in my own particular space, like some Microsoft MVPs. So if you know that they're following people in the area that they've got, you know, a general interest, and if they're maybe retweeting or adding commentary to something like that, just from a professional point of view. And then I guess if you just want to look at the person from a kind of an overall perspective, again, you know, if you're not seeing, I guess, an element of trolling or anything like that, or if you're getting a feel for a person's sense of humor, that's a good thing. You know, see how they interact and behave when they're part of the when they're hopefully part of the firm. You know, you can definitely get a good sense of the person's personality, I think, in that way. So yeah, definitely those are the things that I would be mindful of when I'm looking through both profiles. I think like that, LinkedIn is the jumping off point for me.
Yeah, no, brilliant. And I think it's all about getting your personality across as well, on what you're posting on social media is very important. So thanks, Owen and Shawnee, for your key contributions there as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pass you over to my colleague now, Pat Monroe. So it's back to you, Pat, to talk about all things networking.
Thank you, Katie. That was brilliant. Much appreciated. I'll see if I can get this right. Share. And I'm not quite there, am I? Or am I? Am I there? Oh.
You're up, Pat. Thanks.
Brilliant. All right, brilliant. Thank you, Katie. So just to reintroduce myself, Pat Monroe, team lead here at Berkley, and just to highlight a little more about what I do day to day, I'd be working more in the permanent recruitment space, and particularly along the lines of data analytics and artificial intelligence and supply chain that's relevant to those areas. So the theme of my particular presentation, to dovetail a little bit with Katie's, is being visible. It's an important starting point with LinkedIn, because what we find generally is, and this is very much a general comment, is that contractors, who I guess would be primarily where Katie lives, tend to be more, their profiles tend to be stronger when it comes to LinkedIn. So what I'm trying to encourage people, especially those that perhaps have been in their careers for a while, is to don't be a stranger. Don't isolate yourself. Lockdown's been very interesting. Some people have enjoyed it because they've liked maybe to hide and don't miss the commute and the noise of the office. Others, it has been somewhat of a lonely experience. And then for others, it's been kind of not been great because they've lost their jobs. And so regardless, in these times of uncertainty, no matter what's happened to you, it's really, really key that you not isolate yourself. So and senior professionals especially tend to stay a little bit quiet when it comes to online. Maybe they don't want recruiters contacting them. Maybe they don't want people contacting them at all through the online platforms. They just want to get on with their day-to-day. But in these times, it really is key to really put yourself out there. But to take a step back from that, and to my next slide, is remember, this is also about building relationships and building friendships. So learn from the Don. Most of you will recognize this picture. One of the greatest films, in my opinion, of all time. One of his famous quotes, as far as recruitment goes, is "Make you an offer you can't refuse." But this quote's fantastic, and it's friendship is everything. Friendship is more than talent. It's more than government. It's almost equal to family. And I suppose I'd like to throw it early in the piece across to Owen and Shawnee, if you're ready there. I know you guys have had a professional friendship for a long time, and this is what we're talking about, is a professional friendship. How important do you think it is to foster those professional friendships, Owen?
I think it's really important. Would it very similar way to you going to a restaurant? If you like the food there, you're going to go back. If you're dealing with somebody in a professional basis and your experience is really strong and good, you will go back and kind of have another experience with that person, or try and work with those people again. So it's very important when you're dealing with anybody that you remember it's a two-way street. You don't just take information all the time. If there's an option or opportunity for you to help out, then you can kind of offer your help as well. So it's important to build out a network, and I know people will be going, "Oh, old boys club," but it's not that. It's very similar to all those old proverbs, many hands, light work, all that. It's just having people you can touch base off, or even if I was going to talk to Shawnee about something, it would be, I would explain what I was doing, and even in the process of explaining it to a peer, the cogs will start in your own head, and you will be able to kind of come up with a kind of your own solution. So the process of talking to a peer, or just having somebody you can talk to at a level playing field, it's very important.
Yeah, brilliant. And to your point about building that likability, and that then that you can trust someone, you can trust that if you go back that you'll get the similar result last time, and that you're definitely looking out for each other, looking for ways to help others. You've been friends a long time, Shawnee. I know that it is a marathon, isn't it, when it comes to networking? Would you agree, Shawnee?
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of, what Owen said there, the key thing here is like building up trust with people, so whether that's, if you have, I was lucky enough to work with Owen for five or 6 years. So we built up, a good relationship obviously over that time. And, he's introduced me to some very good people in the industry, which has been really helpful. So, you can always lean on that. But I think the key thing is just, like I say, it's being able to build up trust, and then being able to build up a rapport with somebody. Even if that's, not always maybe 100% related to the subject, if it's, I think having that good kind of personal relationship and being approachable is definitely key. That's why I place a lot of stock in, even attending events like something like a SQL Saturday, when we'll be able to attend these events again in person. It's a good thing because it gives you a chance to talk to your peers, get an idea, and build up that relationship, on a one-to-one basis. It's good to, like we mentioned previously, it's good to be able to do things on LinkedIn and Twitter, but you can't beat that whole face-to-face interaction either. And that's really an invaluable way, I think, of building up a network over time.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thanks. And just as a segue into this, this is a nice proverb we talked about. You touched on proverbs or sayings or slogans or whatever. But this is actually the title of a great book called "Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty." And I think it's easy enough to understand that before you're in need, you need to be looking for ways that to help others, so that you're not just the one that's, when they're in a desperate situation, have your hand out, and then suddenly people are thinking, well, this guy only wants my friendship now because he's in trouble, and where was he before? So he or she, I should say. And I guess most people would agree with that. So yeah, you have about 150 meaningful relationships of people that are coming in and out of your lives. And I mean, this book will really encourage you. You have to be proactive in looking for ways to stay in touch. You can't just be ad hoc with people, don't you think, guys? I mean, just an ad hoc check-in just to say hi, or how's it going, or what are you guys working on, is pretty important, when you say.
Absolutely, yeah. So you can't just, when I need something, I go there, because that well will pretty quickly run dry, to use your analogy there. So what you want to do is, you're always having that part, and like, you don't really do it in a selfish way either. It's always kind of good that you like the person, you have a genuine friendship or a genuine rapport. But yeah, you always want to keep in touch, and it doesn't always have to be the technical side. In fact, I kind of just could digress a little bit, is one of the key things that's missing from a lot of technical, and I think all this audience here are technical. One of the key things when you're a hiring manager will look for, which is unusual in a technical person, is soft skills. Because when they're dealing with clients, that's how it works. You want your communication to be really strong. So things like the ability to build up and hold a network indicates that you have a pretty strong soft skills, and so it is something you kind of look for. Yeah,
brilliant. And I suppose within that, when you're being proactive, is to, maybe a tip might be to divide those friendships or whatever relationship you have into different areas. So you might have strategic partners that you work on professionally on a day-to-day basis. You might have people that you look to, particularly in tech land. You mentioned SQL Saturday, subject matter experts that you look up to, I suppose, as someone, as a kind of a go-to guru in one particular area. And then there's your general baseline of network. So people you went to university with, people went to school with, and even me being over here in Ireland, I'm still putting people together back in Australia just because it's a good thing to do if you can do it, So, but you mentioned SQL Saturday, and it's a good segue into the next slide, Shawnee. Would you say you do that? There's subject matter experts that you would be consistently in touch with to help you on your way in your career?
Yeah, I think, I would have made contacts across, both contractors and people working in the industry, and even people who will say working within Microsoft, who, you could just, once you have established that relationship, that you can just reach out to, then obviously people in your past, let's say, who you'd have worked with previously, who may have moved on. Just even simple things like checking in with them, being active in something as simple as a WhatsApp group. Sometimes these things are all beneficial, just so that, like you say, you can draw on them if need be, and equally be available to them if they've any kind of technical issues or questions. So I think that's definitely an important thing, I think.
Awesome, thank you. So we'll get into some of the bit more of the meat and potatoes in terms of the online piece. I just wanted to really highlight that it's important online, but certainly use the tools and build the relationships in the background. And then remember that you've got a number of different options here. There's really no excuses for not having some kind of an online presence. And there's so much opportunity for you to build a profile. So between LinkedIn and obviously Facebook's the sort of granddaddy of them all in terms of the sheer numbers of people online. The meetups, Twitter, Tumblr, Stack Overflow, the list goes on. But one tip I would give people, if they are sort of looking upwards or managing upwards or wanting to join a conversation, is self-education. So if you want to join a Twitter chat about a particular area, especially if it's highly technical, it's really, really key that you come in with some basis. You don't want to be sort of seen to be some rank amateur that's just wading into a conversation. You want to come in as someone who's done their research and really, really made an effort to join the conversation constructively. And I suppose, just again, back to the guys, Owen, would you have a particular favorite in this sense? You'd mentioned even TikTok and YouTube, and I think of TikTok as like my son's showing me crazy videos on TikTok or on YouTube, and I just want him to turn it off. It just drives me mad. But it's got a serious professional opportunity there too, does it not?
Well, similar to you, I get my interaction with TikTok has been my son's showing me crazy videos and me wanting to turn it off. But where I see the opportunity with TikTok, it's very similar to YouTube, but it's in these days of reduced attention span, a YouTube video of 20 minutes or 15 minutes mightn't be the thing somebody might come along and use. Whereas TikTok, I see an opportunity of quick tips, something that takes 30 seconds, something that takes 2 minutes. That would be a micro vlog, essentially, quick tip there. As regards Twitter is my favorite. In Twitter, I use a thing called lists, which I actually group together kind of your MVPs, the people, the experts in certain areas. Even, I have a comedy list where I kind of go off and I look at kind of the funnier tweets. But I've kind of segmented my Twitter using lists. Very useful, especially from looking at specific areas within technology as well. But there's things like hashtags in Twitter. One of myself and Johnny's actually, we work in SQL Server a lot, and there's a SQL help hashtag, whereas people might ask a question on that, and then experts will come in and answer a question on that hashtag as well. So there are things we were talking about earlier on about, you giving back. So once you build up your expertise in a certain area, there's probably similar hashtags across all technologies that you can give back pretty quickly in that scenario as well. And as well as if you're vlogging using TikTok, creating a video for somebody, you're doing two things. You're actually sharing So you're giving back, which always looks good. But you're actually learning a lot for yourself. I've never learned more than when I'm actually putting some training deck together, because you have to know something inside out to kind of to cover off any questions that may come in that particular area.
There's also an opportunity to trade information as well. I mean, would you do a little bit of that as well? In that, would that be, would Twitter be the main platform for that? I know there's Stack Overflow in there, and then there's I guess the meetup, the more traditional approach. Would you say that Twitter falls into that category?
It would be very generic kind of information if you're sharing it, or you would share a link to your blog potentially, like, so it's a good kind of a PR opportunity for any kind of, if you've written a LinkedIn article, if you've written your own blog in an internal site or a blogging website, you use it there. I wouldn't use it to put huge amounts of information on. I think like the likes of Stack Overflow would be your scenario there. What you could do is link back a Stack Overflow article to somebody and kind of say, check this one out, and that might help. Yeah, but
right. So there is some sort of etiquette. There is some sort of focus on the do's and the don'ts of how-tos in that. So, and I dare say within that, these plethora of education platforms, there's opportunities to learn about that, and even YouTube itself can provide that too, can it not? Yeah. So any other thoughts on this, Shawnee? You know, expanding thoughts, information. I mean, ultimately, it's trading information, isn't it? To better your standing and your, I guess, subject matter expertise and your standing in the community. Do you have any other further thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just, you made a great point there earlier, just around looking at Twitter, I guess, and looking at people's interactions. So, you know, if there is maybe a thread going on, you know, around a particular topic where somebody's maybe trying to troubleshoot an issue and you can see the question being raised, you don't want to have a scenario maybe where somebody will blunder in, you know, to quote the Big Lebowski, like a child in the middle of a movie, you know, offering no context, or you know, trying to divert from the serious matter. So that's something as well, which if you see that happening, I guess that would be a flag. But if you look at the whole thing, I guess holistically, like, you know, we spoke about SQL Saturday, so we'd have met with Simon Boyer, for example, from Advancing Analytics in the UK. Met him at SQL Saturday, and then, you know, we got talking as part of when I was with a previous company. But no, you know, like his just his online presence is excellent. You know, you can see he's active on Twitter, very active on LinkedIn, and his YouTube channel then is very good as well, constantly adding new content. So I guess that's probably an ideal you know, example, I guess, of somebody who manages this you know, very well, both from the point of view of being helpful online and, you know, getting information out there, and helping people in the wider community, but also just even for their own business. And, you know, if you see somebody, I guess, even if I were to see a potential contractor who's interacting with somebody like that and is active, you know, on their profile, following their profiles, that's definitely something that I would, that, you know, would probably be a point in their favor in my own view.
It'd catch your eye. You'd see them as somewhat of a thought leader in their field.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Brilliant. All right, we're coming towards the end here. I'll just hopefully be able to get to the next slide if I can. There we go. So really, in summary, because I'd like to get to the Q&A, is really it's key not to isolate yourself. It's really important to really look for ways to serve your community. Any way, and don't think that you don't have anything to offer in terms of service. I think anyone can, even if it's just liking and sharing people's posts or providing comment on whatever information that they've put up. Maybe they've put a vlog or something like that up, and categorize these friendships and call them friendships, because it really is that, but it's professional friendships. So it's nothing personal, as the Godfather says. Nothing personal, just business, you know. It really is that. And so don't make it personal. Don't engage in, and Owen alluded to it before, don't engage in arguments online and get into that, unless you're having banter about your football team and it's all a bit of fun. But keep it above the line, and it can be constructive if necessary. You need to provide some constructive feedback, but it needs to be professional all the way through, and be active and engaged in as many of the platforms as you can. It is work. It might seem like a bit of fun, a bit of a novelty at first, and then it becomes a bit of a grind, but it really is worth it long term. So I do have some questions in here that I'll put to the panel. I have one question: how do you limit recruiters offering roles to a particular region? I'm not sure about that. I'll have to come back to you on that one. Do you find that contractors tend to be more engaged online than permanent workers? I'd say yes. Gents, do you have any comment there? Owen, do you find contractors tend to be more engaged online than permanent?
I've never made that differentiation. It's very hard unless you're looking to see, is this person a contractor or not. I suppose some of the kind of the higher end kind of guys would be there. In general, they are contractors anyway, because they'd go out to the big companies, do 5 to 10 days work, and then they move on again. And those guys, by their nature, would have to have a very strong online presence. But look, because it's always good to future-proof yourself, and it's you are your own brand. So I think just to constantly kind of be tipping away online is pretty important. Yeah,
brilliant. I'm just going to, sorry, I've been asked to make do something technical here. So this will officially come into the Q&A segment. I really appreciate your time and attention and listening to my piece, and we'll open it up for the general questions as well. So Katie may want to come in here. So I'm just making Katie host. So I'm going to just start as well, just by sharing some more of these. So for individuals on LinkedIn who are looking for a new career opportunity but are wary of selecting open to opportunities on LinkedIn, what advice would you give them in terms of being noticed by recruiters and hiring managers? Katie, you might want to have a go at that.
Yeah, and I think it's a question that it's always asked, especially for people who might only be passively looking and they're afraid that maybe their manager might see that they're open to new opportunities. It is quite a tricky one, I suppose, to get around. That's why there would be a different segment to LinkedIn, which we use as well, LinkedIn Recruiter, which would kind of categorize your profile slightly different if you're open to new opportunities. What I'd recommend here, if people are quite reluctant and kind of nervous about people seeing that they're open to opportunities, is connecting with the right hiring managers out there, the right recruiters, keeping in close contact with recruiters, knowing exactly. I do have a couple of contractors that will be in contact with me regularly that would like to see what's out there. So it's keeping in close contact. They wouldn't have it up on their LinkedIn profile that they're looking for new opportunities, but it's staying in close contact with the right people is what I'd recommend here, instead of putting it up onto your headline on LinkedIn that it is new opportunities, I suppose, that you're open to.
Brilliant, brilliant. Okay, well that's great. So a couple more very good questions actually. It seems, and I might summarize this one, that people might tend to hustle too hard and then get hired and then they disappear. Or maybe they might oversell themselves a little bit. What comment would you have to that? That you see someone, they're really hustling hard, and I think that the theme of this, my opinion, would be that they haven't got a service mentality. They've got it's all about them mentality when selling themselves, and they might oversell themselves. Have you come across that at all, Owen?
I think everybody hustles too hard initially. Everyone is overselling themselves at an interview. As I think that there is a kind of every interviewer, or usually, would have a jaundiced eye when it comes to that. So you would know that what you're seeing isn't. You're seeing a person at 100% their best, the polished article, everything, all the answers off, tickety boo. But and you know that it's not what's going to happen when they come on board. So and again, you know, if you kind of judge a person to be of kind of a reasonable standard, and then you know yourself how much a person can reasonably get through work. Yeah, I don't think that would be an issue. The issue there would be your manager hustling you too hard once you get on board. And again, that's something that doesn't last very long.
Yeah,
yeah. So that's that. Beg your pardon, what's that?
No, sorry, Pat. I was just saying, like, it becomes pretty clear. You know, I think you can obviously see if somebody is trying too hard in terms of like a LinkedIn profile or something like that. Just my own experience anyway. I think it's one that you probably weed out in the face to face, you know, over your you know, maybe 2 to 3 interviews, that you'd be able to get to the root of that and be able to, I think, weed it out. So it shouldn't be a major issue. Like, you have to accept that people are going to oversell themselves, I guess. To an extent.
Okay. All right. So hustle away there, guys, and you know, get the interview, and then they can work it out for themselves once you're in the job. But I mean, my only comment to that would be, sure, sell yourself as much as you can. Don't oversell yourself too much, because you can end up in the wrong role and with way high expectations and what you're capable of. But if you can offer some service along the way, that, you know, if you've genuinely helped people out and you get a reputation for it, that's going to really hold a lot of water. So next question's, what advice would be for someone that's looking for changing a field? So in this particular case, someone moving towards a Scrum Master, they've got the certs but lack the experience. Any comment there, Owen? What would you suggest?
Something like that is evolution rather than revolution. So what you do is you would be looking for a role internally in your own company or externally that would encompass more of what you're looking at doing, because you can't just throw away your key skills. If you spend 5 years doing X, you can't just suddenly switch to, well, you can, but it's going to be very difficult to move to Y. So what you want to do is move to a role that has X, but a little bit of Y, and then you kind of evolve your way to Y. And as well, doing something like that gives you an idea of if you like Y as much as you think you might.
Yeah, good point. Good stuff. All right, Katie, do you have any comment on that? As far as contractors tend to come in, be sort of brought in for a particular task, and then they get taken out. It's not so much that they're given so much career opportunities on the job. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you there, Pat. And I think on the contracting side of things, if you're hired to do a certain piece of work, it's very hard to kind of come up and say, well, I actually kind of want to move on from this. And I think people, especially say your contract is 3-6 months in length for the particular project, it's all about communication, I think, as well. Kind of when your contract might be coming to an end, you're probably saying, look, I'd like to go into a different area in the tech side here. It's all about kind of saying it to them. Maybe I'd recommend speaking up, so to a manager that you're reporting to, whether it be on a contract or a perm side, saying, really happy in this position, really built up my experience. However, now I'm looking for a change moving towards this. What would you recommend? Managers, anyone within the business, they're the best people to talk to about this. And then when it comes to us as recruiters, and on your CV, you've been in job X for quite a number of years, that's all you have, you're looking to move into a different area. And I can see the person here that asked that question, they are moving towards the right direction, they're completing relevant courses and they have the relevant certificates. So I'd agree with what we've said, is that definitely speak to managers in terms of what they'd recommend themselves as well, and just see what's out there. There could be a job, and especially on the perm side, that you could be looking to go into a Scrum Master position. There could be a project that will allow you exposure to that as well. So just look at the particular projects that you're working on, is what I'd recommend here as well, Pat. Awesome.
Yeah, so we're coming up to 5 minutes to the hour. So, and I know Owen has and I dare say Shawnee too will have commitments after this to jump to. So coming towards a wrap up, but I think this last question is a great one to end on, and it's everyone's been a graduate and have been looking for their first opportunity. What advice, Owen, would you give for graduates, especially at the moment, given let's not beat around the bush, fairly dire situation for grads this year particularly?
Yeah, my global pandemic experience is pretty small, but based on just previous previous years or previous graduates that I've kind of worked with. First thing you need to do is kind of have reasonable expectations. So don't come in expecting huge salary. Don't come in expecting a massive role or a massive kind of technology kind of skill sets that you're going to have to kind of learn up straight away. Have reasonable expectations. So what you want to do is, again, okay, everyone's career is going to be an evolution, really. You're going to have small little bits. So the first step is get a role reasonably related to what you've done or what you want to do, and just listen and, you know, gather as much experience as you can, or as much knowledge as you can from the people already doing that role. If it's not exactly what you want, or if it's even 10% of what you're looking to do in future, get that 10%, and then just keep looking out for your next role. That'll get you to that 20, to the 15, you know, because you have time.
Yeah, brilliant. And Shawnee, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think one thing that you would see, you know, sometimes with some recent graduates is they can be, you know, purists in terms of maybe some of the technologies that they want to work with. So, you know, for a while there, a lot of people may not have wanted to touch Microsoft technologies, only open source, and they would be quite vocal maybe about that. I think they need, you know, you need to be open. You need to be willing to give something a go. You know, just be open to opportunities. Don't be closed off to anything. That's a key thing, because, you know, if you express, I guess, that kind of a closed off mentality, you know, it will definitely close doors for you. Yeah.
Kate, yeah, I agree. As far as that goes, being open and not not being too narrow-minded as far as what you think your value is, as opposed to what the market's actually telling you, and where perhaps the market really has your skills in demand. You know, in that book in particular, he mentions how sometimes grads might come in and they're ready to start at the top and move their way up, you know. And you know, you don't necessarily want that mentality. It's not like you have to start at the bottom. I mean, you didn't do all that study for no reason, but I think, you know, coming in with that perspective, and I would add in also, there is ample opportunities for you to serve your community, even at that level, even as a graduate. Don't think you've nothing to offer some of those online platforms. Don't think there's nothing that you have to offer in terms of meetups, the online meetups in particular, to raise your profile. So Katie, anything from yourself for grads?
No, I think since I was only in that position, I suppose just a couple of years ago as well, I think the openness for being willing to learn. You might have a role in your head that you seeing as being the ideal role for you. But I'd recommend just reaching out to recruiters, having a chat to them. They do this day in, day out. They know kind of how graduates are entering the market. They know the best places to look at. So for me, when I came onto the market as a grad, I think it was openness to absolutely everything and getting as much experiences as you can. Because I know, especially in these times, it can be quite challenging for graduates to pick up the ideal piece of work that they'd be looking at for themselves. But it's just getting out there and building up that experience as soon as possible, and putting your theory into practice.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, well, there are more questions coming through. I think that's kind of all we have time for. So I really, genuinely, on behalf of Berkley and IT at Cork, I'd like to thank Owen and Shawnee for coming on today. I think there's been some really great, what I like to use the term gold nuggets, that good takeaways that people can use to leverage their careers. So much appreciated, guys. Thank you.
And just as well there, Pat, because I can see there is a few more questions popping through, but unfortunately, as Pat said, we won't have time to reach all those questions. But at the end, and on this as well, all myself and Pat's contact details, phone numbers, LinkedIn, it's all there. Feel free to follow up, and we'll be happy to answer the questions for you.
Brilliant. Okay, well, with that, I think we're going to have to wrap it up. All right, so thanks again.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Katie. Take care.
Right.
Thank you.